Well, perhaps this won't come as a surprise. A new survey suggests the top reason people don't talk about money is that they're too embarrassed or ashamed and fear being judged. The survey was done by debt consulting firm BDO Debt Solutions. For more on what we found, or what they found rather, let's bring in Mike Braga, Vice President at BDO Canada. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
So your organization, you connect with people who are having a challenging time with their debt. So perhaps already in a moment where they're willing to talk about it. But do you find that people may have gotten, to a place where they're having an extreme challenge because they haven't talked to somebody about it earlier on?
Absolutely. And the poll results that we're seeing, so more than half of the individuals that are struggling with debt, are afraid to talk about it. And we see that bear out in our experience from on a daily basis. So what we're finding is that most individuals will wait anywhere from 6 months to over a year before they actually reach out and seek out solutions to their debt situation. By the time they do that, oftentimes the solutions that are available are very restrictive. And there's not a whole lot that we can do. And so we're looking at some really big decisions at that time in order to resolve the debt. And so oftentimes, by not talking about the debt, we're putting ourselves behind the eight ball and not finding those simple solutions oftentimes that can really resolve the situation.
Yeah, what are some of those simple solutions? Because, it's something that somebody might not think of on their own, but if they were talking to somebody who sees this all the time and thinks, well, if we just connect this dot to this, then this might make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, caught early enough, Jacqueline, oftentimes what we see is, if we can get in and start looking at some budgeting processes, that can put people back on track. Now, more than half of Canadians don't carry a budget on a month-to-month basis. And so really they're spending blind. And so if we catch early enough and doing some budgeting techniques and talking about how to actually formulate a budget and stick to it, we can really see some improvement. Later on, if we are seeing that there's been a debt issue and there's some accumulation happening, things like a consolidation could help, or refinancing mortgages. Doing those types of situations, you never want to do them blind, and you want to make sure that you're getting expert advice, because you don't want to have just a temporary solution there. You want to make sure that if you are refinancing or doing that debt consolidation, that you have a strong budget in place, that you're not going to get into that same debt solution or debt problem again. Finally, for the more extreme cases, you're looking at your government options, the consumer proposal and bankruptcy. And those are two scary words, but those are debt relief options set up by the government to help people hit the reset button.
Yeah, it's interesting from your survey that people would rather talk about losing a job or, problems with their house, having to do repairs on their house, than they would want to talk about debt.
Absolutely. And I often say that part of my job is part therapist, because, the last thing that people want to talk to me about is the financial problem and what's brought them to that situation. So they'll talk to me about their relationships, their children, and how they're helping them out. But when it comes to the money, there's still this big stigma, and there's still this thing out there where we equate money with success. And that's how we're judging ourselves. And we feel that, hey, if we admit we have a problem or we don't have all the answers ourselves, that we failed somehow, and we don't want that judgment, which is what's preventing people from seeking help.
How do you cultivate that sort of open discussion within your own household? If you wanted to talk with your partner about debt, but they didn't want to talk about it, how do you do that in a way where both parties would be, doing it willingly?
Yeah, it has to start early on in the conversation. And oftentimes it's one of those situations where you just have to sit down and lay everything bare on the table and say, this is what I'm bringing to the relationship, and these are my money values. And this is how I spend dollars or like to use my money, and have that frank discussion. Oftentimes what happens in those situations, you either find out that you're really compatible and you're on the same path, or you're not. In that situation, many couples will break up as a result of that, but early on in the situation. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you're not compatible financially, you could be in for years and years of struggling with respect to things like finances and and debt. And so we want to make sure from a compatibility perspective, you're also compatible financially.
Yeah, goals, treats, what have you. It's good to be on the same page for those. And what about if you were, trying to have those conversations with your kids too, and setting the groundwork there?
Yeah, and we're having there's this generation that's coming up that's predominantly online and social media focused. And when it comes to financial literacy, things that are short bursts, that type of information isn't necessarily the best information to have. So oftentimes what I'm suggesting for millennials or younger, you do need to do some of the deep dives, and we have to have those conversations. It's ironic that, in the survey, 18 to 34-year-olds were one of those high-risk groups who are really reluctant to talk about money. But it's precisely at this age bracket that you do need to have these conversations, because that's when you're starting a family or buying your first home or figuring out how to pay your student loan, and you're doing it blindly. And so it's incumbent on parents and guardians and people in that social circle to start having those conversations and pass on that wisdom.
Mike, really